I'll just introduce myself quickly. My name is Shraddha Ghosh, and I'm the founder of this organization called Pixeler. What we do for CPA specifically, our organization handles quite a number of sessions. Like we have a session for enrolled agents and CPA and Ind-AS. But typically, what we do with CPA is we run concept-based classes, which means that whatever number of sessions we have, we don't link it to any module. You can take any content provider. What we do is we emphasize a lot on comprehensive learning. So in terms of CPA, we'll be doing a lot of sims in the class, and we ensure that the topic is linked so that you get an idea of how to fluidly go from one topic to another within the same module, and then later on, how do you connect the modules. What we are doing today is we are going to approach the written communication section of BEC. Now, I strongly feel that most of you who have, taken the pain of joining today's session, either you are on the verge of sitting for your paper, or you have some background knowledge of the other modules or most of the modules, because otherwise, generally spending 2 hours on a weekend on this really does not make a lot of sense. So my assumption in these entire sessions would not be to give you a mastery of the technical knowledge, but to give you an idea of, if you look at a written communication, can I objectively and in a very threadbare model, can I dissect it, and can I elicit a response which will help me get maximum marks in CPA? So like any other module, right? The moment you look at simulation, or the moment you look at, let's say, MCQ, if I can threadbare analyze a written communication, and we can draft a model in which we can understand, okay, now this is a kind of a question. First level is to understand what kind of a question is asked. And in my mind, if I can make up a mental map and say, okay, this looks like a question like this, and this is the way I should be approaching it. So if we can give you that kind of a roadmap, and if we can discuss some bare minimum requirements of getting maximum marks out of that 15 marks given to you in in our written communication, that is what is a deliverable of this lecture. Now, what is the methodology? What we'll be doing is, first we'll be understanding. So what I've done is I've collated a fairly good number of WCs. I've tried to put it in a very comprehensive manner to help you understand what kind of WCs are generally asked and what has been the history of written communication questions that have been asked in the exam till date. And what I have tried to do is I've tried to put it under 4 broad categories. Now, why is that so? Because the moment you know that as a student, when you look at a particular WC and you start understanding, oh, this is within this model, it's easier for you to understand the level of difficulty and what are the problem areas encountered in each category. So what I have done is I have tried to put it into some kind of a category, so that first your mind should perceive what kind of a question I'm dealing with. And for a question like this, what should be my ideal response? So it's like saying I'm trying to avert the risk of, so I'm talking in the BC language now, I'm trying to avert the risk of being caught off guard. And how do I proactively build up my defense to come up with a most logical and marks fetching answer in BC? Okay, so what we'll do is, first I'll give you an overview of what kind of WCs generally come. Second, what I'll do is I'll try to tell you what exactly is the ask of the written communication question as communicated by AICPA. So AICPA has exactly told us that this is how we would be marking you on a WC question. So first, let's understand from their side what is their ask from us as students of written communication question. And then what I'll do is, what I'll do is we'll take 5 major heads of BC, like your economics, IT, costing, financial management, and ERM and COSO. As we all know, right, there are 5 different topics that we can be asked in the BC section. And what I would do is I will take the variety, but my aim will be to talk about those areas which have least boundaries. Because if I know a boundary, it's really easy for me to crack it. The problem comes when WC has no boundary and you're completely left zapped knowing what to do and how to go. So my attempt will be to take out those topics which does not have a boundary, because these are the topics that are going to catch us off guard. and then try to see how we can put a boundary and how we can come up with the best answer in the scenario. Okay, so okay, couple of rules for the class. If you have a question, just write it in the chat panel. If I have to take it in there and if I find it relevant, I will unmute you. And if not, let me finish the thought and I'll give you a chance to answer. But write in the chat panel. Don't unmute yourself, sumoto. Don't do that because that just disturbs the flow of the class. Okay, so 1 second. Okay, is my screen visible, everybody? Okay. Oh, I think, yeah. Is the screen visible, guys? Everybody? Okay. Now, see, I'll just give you an idea of what kind of SIMs generally we are aware of. Most of the content providers have covered it. And how would I want to put it into separate categories? Okay. So what we've done is I'll give you a synopsis of what kind of SIMs in different topics have traditionally been asked. Some of them are AICPA generated SIMs. By the way, don't forget to do the last released AICPA questions for BEC before you sit for your paper. Okay, because that is on the website. It's very easy to get. You would be able to get it. So just have a look at the kind of SIM that is being asked there. Now, see, what I've done is I have broken down the entire category of WC into 4 major subcategories. The first kind of question is a question which, they will mention probably an industry and an industry type, but these are direct questions. These are not questions which are customized according to a particular industry. This is a question that will test your knowledge on the overall topic, but it's a direct question. It's not something whose answer would differ depending on what a particular case is, right? So for instance, if I'll take the first one, how technology can help in internal control monitoring. Now see, they'll give you a name of a company, but in general, these are direct topics. These are topics which come directly, and all that they try to test you is your knowledge of a particular area. Now that particular area can be an area that you're, this is something that we know. This is our defined boundary. So the moment it is a defined boundary, we're very happy because this is something that we have learned. And it is all a function of how well I remember my points, one second, how well I remember my points and how well I feel I will be able to, apply myself. So this is a very known territory. It's a known turf. It's a direct question. And I'm very happy because I exactly know the answer. So I'll give an idea what kind of questions have come in the past. The only thing that you can do as a student right now is when you are reading a particular topic as a revision or as a first time or whatever, you should be aware that you can be asked of questions here and your mind should be able to pick up and coherently express yourself. Like, for instance, they've given you direct questions on what are the components of your COSO frame. Very simple. All that you have to do is when you're reading it, you should be able in your mind to understand, okay, this is how I'm going to organize my thought. And this is typically an area which is the simplest. It's a direct question and it is unknown territory and it talks about something that we're very comfortable with. Now, this is a gray area, right? So this, I would call it like a global gap. So as a faculty or as somebody who would be doing it, my take on this is going to be like global gap. How much I know in general of the entire section. So these are topics which is not dependent on one particular topic. Like, so the moment I say what are the 5 components of COSO or what are the key aspects of risk management, only the R component of COSO, or why do I need a change monitoring control? These are direct topics. But the moment I ask you, tell me what is the role of technology in internal control? It's a very global kind of an answer, which is a question of not just what I have read, because it's not something that I would know immediately. Okay, this is this page, this module. I just need to do that. So when your mind starts looking for an answer, there would not be a address for this kind of an answer straight away. So in other words, you have a lot of territories you will have to explore, and then you will have to call out, and on the spot in your exam, you will have to come up with meaningful answers. So typically, this is boundaryless. And what you have to do is you will have to set up a boundary think rationally, and correlate all the topics that you have read and come up with answers on this. Now, one more thing, what is important is that these are questions which is not having, which is not going to be confined only on your, one second, which is not going to be confined only on your knowledge of what you have read from the books. All the knowledge that you have till now becomes a function of how you're going to frame your answers here. Okay, but these are direct questions. These are not questions that are going to change depending on the particular case scenario given to you. Okay, so this is like global gyan, whatever you have learned, assimilated over whatever number of years you have lived in your life, 40 years, 45 years, 30 years, 25 years. All of that, along with BC that you have read specifically, would be asked in questions. Say, for instance, if I'm looking at COSO or SOX, I can have things like what is the benefit of voluntary compliance of management assessment of internal control and independent attestation by a non-issuer as per SOX Act? Now, this looks like a very complicated thing. In actuality, what is this? Very simple. There's a private limited company, non-issuer, as we call them in the US, and they are contemplating that, see, SOX is not applicable to me. But if I go and deliberately go and do attestation for internal control, is it going to help me? If yes, how? Now, you will never get a question. You will never get any content in any of your content providers giving you the answer for this. But the moment you start linking your practical knowledge and your theoretical knowledge, you can come up with an answer. See, what if I'm going for raising funds? What if I am coming with an idea that it does help, because I want to have a public presence, or I'm going to come up with an IPO, or I'm going to convert to a public limited company, or I'm going to ask for a bank loan. What can be the possible answers? So these are again direct questions, but you will not get direct answers for it. So you will have to prepare. And the only way you can do is if you can go and relate your practical knowledge with your theoretical concept. And this is a very individualistic approach. The more you read, the more you'll be able to answer these questions. As simple as that. So these two, this is easy. Most of the time you'll see there are certain questions, there are certain topics, especially IT guys. IT is one area where this is going to be of huge help. Economics, I'll see how these things are going. So which subject or which subtopic in BC is going to emphasize on what is what I'm trying to give you with a picture of whatever is within our knowledge now. Then the third category comes of a particular case study. That means I have now a case given to me. So it is not just a benefit of a company to me. Now it is specific to the company or to the case that they have mentioned to me. So whatever my knowledge is, I'll have to customize it to the particular question and the industry or the industry participant who has been mentioned to me. For example, we'll do this case study in the class, okay? Because this is one case study. If you can do this, then you will start understanding how you can link so many other things and come up with a comprehensive answer, right? So there's a case study where somebody is asking you why an enterprise level risk assessment is important. And we have a particular company whose idea is given to you. And you have to tell me for this particular company, why will that company go and promote a risk management, risk assessment, and what is the benefit that he's going to get out of it? So we have a knowledge, but that is a very global knowledge. Now they're asking me a very global question, but I have to customize it on the basis of the industry and the case which is given to me. But again, this is not something where I can come, okay, I know what is ERM. I know what is COSO, but when my mind starts looking for answer, I exactly know, okay, my mind was concentrating so much on the 5 frameworks, subpoints within it. Now, what is this? We are completely off guard, right? So how do we coherently answer questions like this? And why is it important? Because when you are revising these topics, I want your mind to be alert that what if they give you a question on this? Will you be able to coherently come up with 3-4 main points and summarize it in your WCs? So when you start revising, I want this to be at the back of your mind. And if you can do that for all the theoretical topics, then we are sorted. The last comes, which is not a global gyan, which is a very specific question. And it is a specific question related to a specific industry or the industry participant given the question to you. So here we'll do a case study on how in one particular scenario, there is a problem with internal control. There is no double cash counting. And why is it a problem, if at all? And if it is a problem, how do you resolve it? So these are very specific case study based situation, and I want an answer accordingly. Now, guys, there's somebody who's joined with no name, just the phone name. Please don't do that. I don't know who is this Samsung SM. I would give you 5 minutes time to change your name. But if the name is not changed, I will throw you out of the meeting. Okay. Please write your name. Jaspreet, is it you? I don't know who is this, but please write your name. Okay. I would not want, 1 second. What is this? Please don't write with your gadget name. Okay. Okay. So what we'll do is in this particular area, we are going to solve two case studies in the class. One which is going to talk about a particular global. Again, these are the two topics which I find is a little open and gray area. We're going to do these two. But with this, the idea should be that when you start preparing at your level, you should be able to be mindful about how to frame answers to these seemingly global topics. Okay. So this is as far as, so I'm going to discuss all my, so whenever you see a particular WC, I want your mind to immediately start saying, okay, this is direct, this is case study. That's number one. Then I want your mind to pick up and say, okay, this is direct, but it is global. Yeah. This is direct, but this is very specific. This is case study, but global. This is case study, but very specific. Because the moment your mind can pick that up, okay, just change your name, Prashant, Parasat. Okay, just change your name. I think that would be better. Okay. So the moment your mind can do that, now you know what are the challenges of this WC and how you want to face it. Okay. So I know there's a problem with the boundary. I know that I don't have to confine myself only to the matter given to me. I'll have to stretch and I have to bring all my other knowledge into the picture. So your mind knows immediately the moment you look at a WC, okay, this is what I have to do. This is the challenge. This is how I have to frame up my answer. So that's number one. Now just have a look at some other topics to see what kind of questions have been asked in the past. Okay. So see, this is economics. Best part about economics is that there is a high chance of getting a direct question. It's like saying instead of putting it as a sim, they have given this same thing to me as a WC. It's something like if I come up and say, okay, this is a scenario. I want to tell you, this is a 5-6, they'll give you 5-6 studies and they'll say, okay, is this a monopolistic competition? Is this a pure competition or is it a pure market? So the moment they convert a sim into a WC, that's the best sim that we can have, okay? Because we know the theory, we know the practical, we just have to combine the two and frame an answer. Okay, so typically in economics, that's one kind of a question that can definitely come in WC, and you should be very proud if you get it because this will give you the best marks. Okay, because these are straight questions, marks allocated to each one, and it will be a very simple thing to crack. The problem with economics is if you get an area here, okay, then it becomes boundaryless. But the best part is most of the time when they give you a question which is like a case study, but it is something which is not just dependent on what you have done, they give you the guidelines in the question itself. They will tell you, I want this, I want this, I want this. So your mind should be able to pick up and say, okay, they wanted me to have an opinion on this, this, this. Okay, this is my answer. So mostly in economics, be very careful about the ask of the question. If it's a very open-sounded question, they will give you what to write in that question. And you should be able to restrict yourself within the boundaries that they have provided. But this is one area where your global knowledge comes handy if it's a topic which is related to an open boundary question. Like, see, for instance, I've given you a question on what is the positive effect of overseas expansion for a US manufacturing company? A very direct question. Now, this might not have come like a direct question. They would have given you with some case study of a company. This is more or less a direct question. And all that they're asking you, what is the benefit of globalization? As a rule, 3-4 nice benefits, if you can substantiate, you are sorted. Then you have a lot of direct questions from economics, right? A lot of direct questions. What is lagging? What is leading? What is, primary factors that can boost demand? These are very simple questions. And that's the reason economics for WC is like a heaven. Because if you get a question from here, be rest assured that it will be a question with least challenge. What is the difference between a product differentiation, cost leadership strategy? How should you go about it? Even the questions which are case scenario based, somewhere or the other gives you topics which are very simple, and whatever knowledge you have of economics you will be able to answer. All that you have to concentrate on is understanding what is it that they're asking, and to answering each specific point one by one. Okay, so we are going to do a question here which says that in one particular company there's a price of a particular raw material that is really becoming high. How are we going to deal with it? Okay, so this is easy. This is not very difficult. Now comes financial management. Now, see, financial management is a practical topic. Okay, so if you get a theory from here, and if it's a direct question, I'm very happy, because things like what is WACC, how is it different from others, what is the difference between ARR and net present value, what are the advantages if you want to go public, why is debt important? So things like this, I'll be able to handle it very well because it is my known turf. Okay, today we're going to take a question on something which is like a case study, but they're asking you a very specific question. I have some extra cash which is required for a short term basis. You tell me, as a person from financial management or management accounting, what should I do with that? And they ask you a very specific question: where should I be investing this cash? So these are very closed ended questions. They have a very specific question. I have to come with specific answers. I can't beat about the bush. I can't go here and there. I have to address the problem very significantly and give a very point to point answer. Okay. Things like, how are you going to mitigate a forex loss? Again, case scenarios given to you about a situation where a company is wanting to go from a risk, more or less an average risk or a risk averse philosophy to a risky philosophy. Now, see, these are simple questions, frankly, because most of these have a very strong understanding. Even as a student of financial management in BEC, you know this. This is the type of question that I want your mind to be very critical about in financial management. Okay, we are going to do 2 case studies here, but I'll tell you what is the necessity, because this is an area where the transition, or where the link between taxation, between financial accounting, and between your BEC will become very important. The boundaries will blur. Okay, so what they'll give you is they'll give you a particular scenario, and then they will ask you to give your opinion and work. So there may be situations in which they might ask you to work out the question and then give you your opinion. So this is a problem. Tell me what are the 2 alternatives. Tell me how are you going to. So basically, you are in a consultant's mode. And then you cannot say this is also good and that is also good. You have to take a stand, because that's the ask of the question. And you have to substantiate it with workings, because it's a financial management question. So typically, I feel in financial management, the first 3 categories are very simple to handle. The last one, you should be a little careful about. You know the answer, I'm pretty sure. But how do you frame your answer? That's more important. Okay. So, for instance, they've asked you about a very specific things about, I am into a cash to cash business. Now I'm wanting to go to credit business. Tell me what kind of risks are involved. And when you do that, my suggestion is, again, it might sound a little strange, but in my mind, the way I answer these questions is I go back to my working days, or when I had a particular scenario like this, I assume a manager who's completely dumb, has no idea, and now he's asking me what to do. And what should be the response that I should give that person, assuming he knows nothing? That is how you want to come up and write this answer. Assume this guy knows nothing about your discipline, and now you are training him from scratch. That should be the way you should come up with an answer. Okay. So here I'm going to take 2 case studies. Both of them are having some kind of a question element involved in it, where some workings needs to be done. The first one talks about the fact that I'm a company. They've given you a case. The case says that I want to take a loan, but when I'm going to raise the loan, the bank is going to ask me for a compensatory balance. So what is the impact of that And they'll tell you the impact on net income, the impact working capital. And as an advisor, please suggest how should we be going about it. So here, a very simple concept of a compensatory balance, but how do you link it to your answers? And how should you be putting a boundary to that is what is most important. Another thing that we'll be doing is we'll be giving you a case scenario where they've asked you that there are two possibilities. I want to take an insurance and I have an option of paying outright or having a down payment with some installment payment option with interest. Tell me, as somebody from financial management team, how is this decision going to impact my working capital or my net income? So whenever we have a practical question being asked to us in a sim where we have to do the workings and then logically come to a conclusion, that is something that we'll be learning through two or three sims that we'll be doing through this area. But generally, a general sim in financial management is the easiest to handle. Okay. Then we come to operations management. Again, operations management I've seen gives you has a history of asking you most simple questions. So any question that comes from this area is more or less very, very straightforward. What is working capital? What is the delta between absorption and variable costing? What are the advantages of flexible budgeting? So very simple, straight questions. If there is a case study, that's the time again our mind should get very alert and concentrate on, okay, what can be the possible reasons. I was talking to one of my students, and in one of the interviews, I think that student is already a part of this class and he will know what I'm referring to. But he was asked in the interview a question on the variances, and he was asked his opinion on why do you think this can happen. So if I have taken a question on that, because I found this to be one of the best questions for costing sim. They have given you a scenario, practical scenario, where they've given you two sets of variances, one favorable and the other not. And they want your opinion on how to go about it. So I really like this sim. And I think this can be the trickiest sim that can happen in costing, or a sim like that. Okay. So how do you stretch? Because there's no direct answer. You cannot come up, your mind cannot go back and say, okay, this is where I've read this and let me apply this. No, your mind just knows the concept and you have to call out a logical answer then and there on the spot in your exam. So how do you do that? Okay. Then comes the last part, which is IT. Now, see, there are a couple of things. This is one area which is undergoing huge change. Okay. So my suggestion is, as I told you, nobody can prepare you for an IT sim. All you have to do is be very alert, be aware of the newer topics that are coming up. So again, I've given you a very general topic here. But see, a case study based question for information technology is a little rare, frankly. They might give you some company name and stuff, but at the end of the day, most of the questions that will be asked will be concerning the concept as a whole, not about the application of that concept in a particular company. Okay, so here I'm going to do three sims. The reason is, one, again, it's a known turf, but to formulate this sim might not be very simple. So if there is a lot of data I know about a particular topic, how do I coherently express it? What to leave and what to catch? That is what we'll be doing here. That is symmetric asymmetric encryption. So if I have been given a question like this, how am I going to frame my answer? Because I have so much to write. What am I going to write? What am I going to leave? Okay, that's number one. And again, as I told you, in most sims, they will ask your opinion. In most of the sims, if they're not a direct sim, they might be coming up and asking you for an opinion. If that opinion is being asked, you have to come up and reach a conclusion. You cannot leave it open-ended. So how do you do that? Okay. We'll be doing two more sims here. One is a very general global GAN kind of a sim, that if there is a data storage, how are you going to affect a mobile work, which is again a very pertinent sim nowadays, right? Most companies are going to go into a complete cloud kind of a thing. Then how would you deal with cybersecurity? Okay, one thing I want you to be very careful about is, one is new technology. Any new technologies coming up can be a very hot topic for an IT sim. The second is, I would say, anything to deal with the modern stuff, right? When you talk about the cyber security, this is another second thing that I want you to be very, very, very clear about, because they can put you a lot of questions on what is cyber security and in a particular situation, how is cyber security relevant. But I want your mind to be able to grasp and produce some coherent answers on cyber security. Okay, so these are the two areas I really want you to be involved. Okay, So here we are going to do 3 sims. Let's see how much time is permitted. But we want to talk about, general stuff. If they're asking you about a global gyan, a very open-ended question, but a close-ended question, but a lot of data I have. How do I curtail and pick up the most important data? Again, this was, I think, one of the trickiest sim I had seen. When I read this sim, it was totally blank. I didn't know how to approach it. And see, segregation of duties. I remember having done this in the sessions theoretically. So they have given you a sim where they have told you there's a problem with ERP implementation. Now tell me, as a person who's handling the IT systems, you tell me, where am I going wrong? They want your help in finding out where you're going wrong. So they are saying you go and pick up and find out who is the guy who is at mistake. So first of all, imagine I am an IT head, or I am a CEO. I have no idea what IT is. So I'm asking you to write a sim and tell me, there is a problem. My company allocated 8 crores for implementing an ERP. Nothing is happening. Everywhere there is confusion. You tell me who is to be blamed. First thing is, who is to be blamed. So my first sim talks about who is to be blamed. Jaishankar, 1 second, I'll tell you. First thing is, who is to be blamed. So he has given you 3 different guys. So I want to catch hold of somebody who's at risk. And then he's telling me, where is the problem? So it's a very open-ended question. Gets completely, catches you completely off guard. We're going to do this to understand how do you link the theory to the practical, and how do you frame a question in this situation. Okay. Jaishankar, you have a question, putting controls. We're talking about cybersecurity. Is that your question? Jaishankar, is that your question?
Yeah, ma'am. Yeah. Just
No,
ask.
cyber security. Typically, I want to know. Here also again, I want you to link BEC. If you are a Becker student, I want you to link BEC 1 with BEC 6. If you're following Wiley or any other systems, I want you to link your ERM and COSO. You remember there is a topic nowadays. There's a they have taken some topics from audit, and they ask you questions on which in the entire control cycle. Let's say purchasing or revenue, what are the documents which are very important. So that part I want you to link with IT and come up with a answer for this. Link your SOC reporting, because that will help you to frame a good answer. So not just control systems, not just the input output and the input process output concept, Jaishankar, overall cybersecurity. So I can ask you any question. If I'm trying to outsource, what are the set of controls I should be having? In general, how do you safeguard confidentiality of data and all of that in the IT environment under different circumstances? This is what I'm referring to. Is it okay?
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay, 1 second. Again, somebody who's joined with the name of Lenovo, please, I want your names to be written. Okay, 1 second. Okay, let's just start with the ask of the question, okay? Okay, so who is this? Yeah. We also, okay, I'll tell you how are we going to conduct this session, okay? As with most of my sessions, we are going to keep it to you. So we have first 1 or 2 questions, probably I'll take it. Otherwise, most of the other questions, I'm going to throw the podium to you. I would want from you guys to get an idea of how to organize this answer, and then I will give you my opinion. So all of them will be like an interactive session, guys. I'm not going to give you, a monologue on how to do each and every one of them, right? So what we are going to do now, we are going to do 10 case studies on a written communication section of BC, covering different scenarios and different topics. Okay. So what is the idea? First, another 10 minutes I'm going to spend on telling you what exactly is the AICP's ask and how do we want to ensure that this is being done. After that, we're going to take each sim. I'm going to first ask you, and I would want you guys to be completely interactive in the sessions. Please don't bother about who is judging you. Nobody is. Who's thinking about you? Nobody is. And what is important is we all learn. See, the idea is if a student takes the question, he or she would already be asked, thinking about what the entire student base is thinking. So we need to know where to start, because by the end, I let you know what are the ideally should be there as a part of the answer. You would exactly know the delta between where you started and where you ended. So you do it 2 or 3 times and then we exactly know what is it that is missing. Okay. Okay. So now let's see what is it that the CPA or the AI CPA has officially communicated to us as far as the ask of a written communication question is concerned. So see, after every written communication, this is what is generally asked by the is mentioned in the WC by AI CPA itself. So what we tell you is this: your response will be graded for both the technical content and the writing skills. So basically, there is a software which has been fed about how they are going to evaluate your answer. That software will judge you on 2 parameters. The first parameter is your technical content. Now, what do you mean by that? Is it what you are writing, what points you are writing, how you are writing, or what is it? We don't know. So let's see. They have given us guidance for that. But there are 2 parameters on which your answer would be evaluated. One is the technical, and the other is the writing skills. Now, see, they've elaborated further. They've said that technical content will be evaluated from information that is helpful to the intended reader and relevant. So, typically, what we are looking at here is we need 2 things: technical content and writing skills. From the technical content, we want the relevance. That means you are still on the issue, you are not taking me here and there. And the fact that whoever has asked you a question, have you been able to provide him or her with a valid answer which he can use? So if I draw from here, what, if when you do FAR, you remember the first session, mostly if you will be doing FAR or you've taken FAR, the first thing is, why are we making financial statements? And we say, see, we're doing it because we want the external users to come up with a decision of whether they should invest $1 in your company or not, which may be either as a creditor or as an investor. So any information that is in the financial statements that helps them take that decision is an important matter to be covered in the financial statement. Similarly, your written communication will be asking you to put yourself into somebody's shoes and seek some information from you. Are you able to provide that somebody with a relevant answer? So basically, if you can put yourself into the shoes of the person who is writing the answer and who is asking for the details in the question, you will be able to knock this part of the requirement. So it should be helpful to the reader, should be relevant. Now, second thing is the writing skills. So what they're saying, writing skills will be evaluated for development, organization, and appropriate expression of ideas in quote unquote professional correspondence. How have you approached the topic? How have you coherently organized the topic into paras? And ultimately, have you been using a language which you would be required if you are working? These are the 3 things that they're going to see here. Again, to make it very, very clear, they have mentioned you categorically in the ask of a WC question that you should have a standard business memo or a letter which should have a clear beginning. In other words, you should have an intro, you should have a body, and you should have a conclusion to your answer. So they made it very clear. It's nothing which has not been communicated to you. They want you to have a very coherent intro, body, and end. And they made it very clear. These are the things that you cannot do. You cannot abbreviate. You cannot write anything which should sound like a summary. No, it has to be like proper answer. And to elucidate it further, it cannot have a table. It cannot be bulleted. It should not sound like a summary. It should not sound as if somebody has already done that and this is a summary. It should not sound like that. So never a bullet, never something which talks about abbreviation. Try not to use any short forms unless and until you've defined it in the answer. Assume that the person who's taking it knows nothing, and then frame your answer. Okay. So 2 things I want you to understand. First, always 2 things. Okay. First thing is answer everything which is asked in the question. Okay. So for this, you will see in most questions, they will sometimes tell you very clearly, I want you to write A, B, C, D. Your answer should cover A, B, C, and D. Remember that. Leave nothing. And second, don't answer anything that has not been asked. These are two simple, don't answer anything which hasn't been asked. So nobody here, see, the best way to, remind me to stay on track is that there is no person who will be checking. There will be a computer who's been fed with a program. So there's no point impressing a computer, right? The computer is like a illogical guy there, right? So two things, don't forget to answer anything which they have specifically asked. And second, if it has not been asked, don't assume anything and write extra. It's not going to help you in any which way. Okay, so these are the only two things as far as the technical content is concerned. Now, see, I've had students asking me questions like, but ma'am, I have not done far. Will they test me on, the topics which are technical? Now, see, ideally, they tell you that you will not be tested on your technical content. But if you look at it, we'll see some case studies that we're going to take today that unless and until you have some keywords, they will not give you marks. And how will you have the keywords if you don't have the technical depth? Okay. So my suggestion is, yes, at least some basic concepts you should be having, because unless and until you have those concepts, you would not be able to put up anything in the answer, right? Because what you are writing is equally important. I have an intro, I have a body, I have a conclusion, but I've written all rubbish. That means I don't have the keywords, then they will not give me an answer, right? So if a computer is analyzing you, they will just pick up keywords. And if the keywords are there, I really don't mind the others. First, they will look at the entire thing. Yes, there's an intro, there's a body, there's a closing. The format is important and the keywords are important. So two things I want you to understand. One is completeness. I'm talking in the auditing parlance now, right? But this is one thing that will really help you. What are the key things that you should ensure in every answer? One is completeness. What do you mean by completeness? I have asked every single thing that has been questioned to me. Second thing is relevance. I have not spoken about anything which is completely rubbish and not related to the question. Third, you have to be very careful about the format, in which format you're answering. And they have already told you. So typically what I'll do is with intro, body, and in the conclusion, I will add two more things. One is the opening line. So I want the format to be very simple. Opening line, intro, body. Body typically try to put it in as many paragraphs as the ask of the questions. We'll see how this works. A conclusion and then a closing line. So typically I want 5 things in every written communication if you want 100% of the minutes, because we are there to tame the computer. Understand that. We are there to tame the computer. So we exactly know what computer will be looking, and I want them to find everything that they're looking for in the answer. So I want an opening line, I need an intro, I need a body which is divided into the number of paragraphs that they have asked in the question, I need a conclusion, and I need a closing line. So once you have that, we are sorted. And I need the keywords. So if you ask me, these are the only 4 things that you've got to keep in mind: completeness, relevance, format, and the keywords. 4 key things. If you can nail all of these 4 things in every written communication question, your work is sorted. Okay. Anybody, any questions now? Because with this, we're going to start with our WC questions formally. Anybody, any questions? Okay. Whoever is this Lenovo, I have not got your name till now. Now, for 1 second, I'll scroll to page 1. What's 1 second? Whoever is this Lenovo, I have not got your answer on your name till now. I'm sorry. I will have to block you now from the sessions. Do you want me to do that? Please rename yourself. Okay, 1 second. Now, I don't remember. Which one do you want me to scroll back up to? This is the presentation that we are taking. Can we just do that in the end? I'll give you time. Whatever you want me to scroll up or down, I'll do it. But just wait. Let me finish this thought. Okay? Okay, now how are we going to go about it? Yeah? We are going to solve every question. We are going to do it topic-wise. I am going to keep 2 things in mind. One is the 4 categories that I've spoken about. So whenever I look at a question, I will try to categorize, okay, this is this category, this is that category. And then I remember the 4 things: completeness, relevance, format, and the keywords. If all of it is there, then I know that I'm writing a good answer. Okay.